After 10 years with Liam Sullivan, he still hasn't had enough fun. Whenever he mentioned marriage, he always laughed, but asked me to say I loved him over and over again when I proposed at the age of 27. His friends laughed at my delusions of grandeur. Liam Sullivan asked in amusement. As I recall, it's not April Fool's Day. It wasn't until I was 30 that I publicly admitted my romantic speculation with the popular Academy Award winner. If nothing else, well, get married. As the news spread, friends congratulated Liam Sullivan on his deliverance from toxic entanglement. He didn't say a word and broke a table at Serenity International's new product launch. A media reporter asked me about my romantic speculation with Ethan Hunt. Mr. N, the rumor is that you and Ethan Hunt are dating. Is it true? I narrowed my eyes slightly and read the name of the newspaper attached to her microphone. A private newspaper owned by Vanguard conglomerate. I guess there's no escaping Amelia Hart. She was the subject of Liam Sullivan's rumored strategic marriage alliance, and about as likely to blame me for straddling the fence and telling me to back off on my own when Ethan Hunt won the Oscar Award for Academy Award winner. He pampered me by asking me to come to the ceremony. It was the same newspaper that photographed me and sent me to the trending topic. I looked around the circle, 100 forms of life. At this moment, all coincidentally turned into a kind of warm. These gazes, none of them, hide expectation. Depravity and ashes. They expected me to nod my head, and then to see me discarded by those behind me and fall into the infernal abyss. I smiled brightly, my eyes looking straight into the camera. If there are no surprises, we should be getting married. As the painting fell, the flashbulb suddenly flashed. The sound of machines was continuous, and many media people lowered their heads to sketching, striving to grab the first line of viral exposure. At this moment, I don't know who suddenly shouted, "What about Mr. Leong?" No one in the busy scene cared about these words, but I looked precisely at the source of the sound. My eyes were sharp, and I smiled appropriately. I think Mr. Leong should give his blessing. In between was Ethan Hunt, the popular Academy Award winner, and the mysterious, low-profile person behind me. Without any surprise, the next second trending topic went straight to the top. And along with it, Serenity International's new work also received a lot of attention. Liam Sullivan. I tapped my fingers and coldly remembered his cold but windy eyes, as if he could look into the bottom of his lover's eyes. I heard she did not know what disease she committed 2 years ago. Even ran to that Mr. Leong to propose, asking people to marry her or not. Mr. Leong is a man who runs several companies, but his background is not simple, so he won't just marry a self-made woman, he said. He laughed on the spot at that moment, and anyone could see that he was laughing at her for not knowing better. If I were to say, she probably hasn't gotten over this hurdle in the past few years, and she's not happy in her heart. So she's following the example of others to find a rising star. Probably because she wants to force Mr. Leong to do it again. I leaned against the door, holding my hand, and laughed softly. I didn't know, so I thought so. The two people who were applying makeup turned their heads at the sound, caught breaking their backs. They grimaced and apologized in a low voice. They were afraid of me. How ridiculous. Except we all know they're not afraid of me. They're afraid of Liam Sullivan. In the 10 years since I started sending out promotional flyers to Serenity International, Liam Sullivan has been someone I've never been able to get around. It's never been hidden. It's common knowledge that I met Liam Sullivan when I was 18 and have been with him since I was 20. If Liam Sullivan had a garden, then I was the most satisfying piece of work that he, the artisan, had sculpted with the utmost patience. The rainy summer nights are always dreary, like a dense web that weaves one's breath away. When the cigarette between my fingers burned my arm, I took a deep breath with a slow movement, and the smoke in front of my eyes. What was I thinking about? Yes, I was thinking about the year I was 27 years old. The marriage proposal that was put up on the media website and publicly executed for 3 days and 3 nights. It was such a grand spectacle, witnessed by all the friends and family who approved and disapproved. Instead, I took out a budget online store item of poor quality bridal veil, engagement ring, which was just a cheap item that I bought on the spot at a store I passed by. The proposal was a whim, and it didn't take more than 20 minutes from decision to action. I looked in my address book and called each of Liam Sullivan's friends, that time. For 7 years, I was the only woman around Liam Sullivan, seeing the wind, seeing the opportunity on the surface. Anyone who got by with me, 27-year-old Ava Young, is no longer the self-made woman who could only afford $20 canvas shoes a few years ago. A watch in her hand is worth millions of dollars. But that year, in the face of Liam Sullivan, whom she loved with all her heart and soul, the proposal cost less than $500, because I knew that whether the engagement ring was $2 or $2 million, Liam Sullivan would not marry me. Liam Sullivan didn't look surprised at the unexpected situation. He was slightly drunk, leaning on the yacht railing, playing with an unlit cigarette in his hand, watching my nonsense with a smile on his face. It was an indulgence and a joke. I remember it's not April Fool's Day. He smiled a springy smile, his eyes like ice, and raised his hand to tell the people watching to get lost. He took the ring and grumbled a little. Little thing, all proposals are so insincere, fooling me with such a thing. I tore off the crude bridal veil, snatched the ring out of his hand, and threw it back overboard. Liam Sullivan's eyes traveled with the parabola and paused above the rippling water. Liam Sullivan, is the word marriage so frightening to you? He withdrew his gaze to the sea and lowered his eyes to ask, Ava Young, you know what you're getting. What you can get from me will be 1,000 times what you're getting now, but there are some things you shouldn't and can't have. I am banging my head against the wall and am only asking for one result, and that result was that he could marry anyone but me. I remember something Liam Sullivan's mother said when she heard that Liam Sullivan had nothing better to do than train a self-made woman by hand. She said that OG used to like it. She said that OG used to like to play like that, and used to do so. It's not unusual to everyone was guessing when Liam Sullivan would get tired of playing. I don't know how long his freshness will last. I can only desperately draw nutrients and strive to climb up the ladder. First I wanted money, I wanted power, I wanted to live like a human being, but now I am greedy. I want to be back to the sparrow in the mountains. I want to be free. The entertainment journalists of that year were so sharp that when they saw that my proposal had failed, they were like mad dogs that had smelled a bone. The Cinderella story became the talk of the town. Serenity International's President Ava Young's marriage proposal to the gold master behind her failed, and it is suspected that her relationship has broken down over the years. Love but no love. 7 years of sweet run ended without any problems. What proposal, what love but no marriage, all bullshit. After I turned 27, I never had the luxury of marrying Liam Sullivan. I always knew that Liam Sullivan was a mountain deep in the clouds, invisible, not a short hill I could climb. To fall in love with someone like that would be nothing more than scraping the skin off my back and mothballing myself to the flame, which would undoubtedly be self-immolation. So, since I got sober, I don't bet on those vain love with him. That was nothing more than my first escape and breakaway, only it ended up being a failed attempt. Footsteps sounded behind me, and the young man's voice was a little brisk. Sister, I looked to the large floor-to-ceiling windows in front of me, reflecting a handsome face with delicate eyebrows. I remembered that I had said that I wanted him to cut down on these sweet and cloying terms of endearment with me, but young people always have inexhaustible vigor and thick skin, no matter how cold face can be hot to stick up. I turned around, my line of sight squarely on his jaw, a 6-foot-something tall man whose shadow under the light almost hid me. Ethan Hunt, young, Oscar Academy Award winner at the age of 23, riding high. It's also because he's young and has desires and ambitions that he's so easy to control and hold. I won't be so stupid as to find myself another Liam Sullivan that I can't control. You'll be contacted soon about the new movie Ming is directing. I moved closer to him and made an intimate gesture. You're quite open-minded. Clearly after winning the award, your resources won't be bad. I look around the corner to my right, looming over the camera, making sure they capture the picture before taking a step back and pulling away. The play has to be full on before anyone will believe it. Ethan Hunt would rush over here to round out what I'd just said on camera. I couldn't have won the award without you. He suddenly oversteps his bounds and grabs my wrist, his moist eyes inked and rolling like a wolf in a deep hole. Longing, sister, What you said about getting married is true, innocent and impulsive, young and beautiful, making people laugh involuntarily, but also making people afraid. Afraid of the love in those eyes that can't afford to pay. I suddenly understood the helpless yet funny mental state of Liam Sullivan back then when he was faced with my feelings so hot that they had nowhere to go. Ethan Hunt is much softer than I was back then. He can show weakness, he can read the eyes, a hard ass. That's what Liam Sullivan said about me back then. I smiled indifferently, patted the back of his hand, and was just about to speak when I was interrupted. I met a pair of cold, silent eyes, and in the darkness, he had a cool smile at the corner of his mouth, like he was watching a boring game. Liam Sullivan, who didn't even bother to look at Ethan Hunt, only cast his eyes to our touching hands and sank slightly. And no one of his stature and position had yet to catch his eye enough to be considered a rival, let alone Ethan Hunt. Get off. He spoke softly, without emotion, to Ethan Hunt. Ethan Hunt looked at him sideways, his dark frontal hair covering his brow, and for a moment I could see a fearlessness in his eyes. Who would dare defy Liam Sullivan? Not even me. Ethan Hunt, however, somehow managed to turn the tables on me in the next instant. Stepping in close and taking my hand firmly in his, like an oath, Liam Sullivan rewarded me with a look at him just then. A contemptuous smile spreading across his lips. I make an immediate decision to take Ethan Hunt out of the picture for now. Why don't you go on back while I take care of some business? The elevator is fast and a little long as we head down from the 68th floor of the Hilton. Liam Sullivan is a long man, his white shirt sleeves rolled up, revealing a white wrist with veins that are slightly raised, so you can imagine his hands in his pockets, exerting themselves to the extreme. Sitting in the black luxury sedan, Liam Sullivan finally had the grace to say, "When did this start?" He leaned over, his tall figure enveloping me, holding both of my wrists in one hand and pressing me against the cold car window. There's always been a disparity in strength between men and women, and Liam Sullivan even uses only 30% of his strength as the ultimate kiss spreads out, making it hard to escape. He cut off my slap, his hot breath hitting my lips. Why are you learning this trick? Think you can just find someone and piss me off? You're overconfident. I reached out and clasped his stern jaw, my nails embedded in the flesh, watching him frown slightly. What makes you think that I don't really like him? The face in front of me used to fascinate me the most. Thick and dense long eyelashes, dropping thick shadows, hiding the pair of dark and cold silent eyes. As unattainable as through the clouds, he smiled playfully, his fingertips smoothing my hair, as gentle as a lover's murmur. In the matter of making me laugh, except for you, everyone else is a little inferior. Nasty, overbearing, only me. I've made enough money for you in these 10 years. You don't lose money on your investments, and now I'm no longer valuable to you. I am not young anymore, and I don't have the freshness that would make him think hard about sculpting me. This amused him, but he returned to me seriously. Money, to me, is the most useless thing in the world. Yes. What is money to people like them? Money, to them, is more like air than numbers. Inexhaustible, cyclical, never-ending. The world is not fair. Liam Sullivan is not short of money, not to mention the lack of love, as long as he wants, such as my cheap love, countless. He played with my fingers as if nothing had happened, just as he had done with the embarrassment of 3 years ago. I don't know what came to mind, but when he spoke again, his tone took on a slightly tasteless tone. What can a brat offer you that is worth going through all the trouble of showing me your cards? He continued. I don't believe you've been with me this far, and you still look at the ones who are going through the motions. I am the half-light. I turned my face and stared straight at him, my cherry red lips slightly open. After 10 years of companionship, I know best how to crack this false mask of his. He can't afford to give anything, but he is beautiful, young. He can give me a clean body. The words fell. My fingers were clenched, and the man with half his face hidden in the night, his jaw tightened, and a pair of cold, silent eyes snapped to me. Gaze. In the darkness of the shimmering light collision, like the wind and rain urged the mountains to fall, bound to turn heaven and earth, reflecting the hearts of the ancient. There was a stalemate for several seconds, and for the first time in 10 years, Liam Sullivan was the first to lose. I watched him turn steeply toward the window, suppressing his temper, his fingers tapping slowly, the way he was calming his anger. In all these years, there had never been just one compromise from me. Now Liam Sullivan was learning to compromise, a rarity. When he spoke again, his demeanor and tone were as condescending as ever. You know my bottom line and my methods. I have plenty of ways to get him to back off, he said. It's just an actor. Whether you live or die, you can't escape from me. What's between you and me? Do you want to implicate innocent people? Liam Sullivan always had a knack for taking possession and control and making it look like he deserved it. Do you think he's doing this because he loves you? No, he just won't be happy that the first one to run away between us is me. Not that he got tired of it first. I tightened my grip on the doorknob and stepped back, mocking, what are you going to do to him? Take $3 million to get rid of him like you did with Marcus Donovan? Or has 10 years passed and Mr. Leung's methods have improved? After many years, it took Liam Sullivan some time to recall the incident, although he didn't expect it. He didn't even bother to say a few more words in a perfunctory manner. When did you know about it? Marcus Donovan was my boyfriend when I was 23, and to be honest, I've forgotten what he looked like. I met him by accident 5 years ago when I was visiting a partner company in neighboring state. By then, he had already had 2 children and a family, perhaps out of reluctance, perhaps foreseeing the difference between the clouds, and never see each other again. He rushed to me and said, as if he were dying, Ava Young, what happened back then was not from my heart. He fumbled with his words. I pieced together the truth of what had caused us to break up. Marcus Donovan and I had an argument because he thought I should go back to my hometown to get married and have children, instead of working day and night in the big city to build a career. You're a girl, why do you have to work so hard? Come back to San Francisco with me and find a secure job. I don't like you doing this. I didn't start out in the barren hills and grow like a weed to go back to a small city with a man and live a mediocre life. Marcus Donovan's perversity seemed to me at the time to be nothing more than machismo. It was so easy for me to separate from a man who didn't see eye to eye that it didn't even make a ripple in my mind. In fact, it was Liam Sullivan who offered me $3 million to leave him. It wasn't that Liam Sullivan couldn't live without me, but that he couldn't bear the thought of a carefully sculpted, but unformed artifact being destroyed by the world. Fong Pu Bai confessed to me, I can't help it, my father has always been honest, but gambling lost $3 million. If I don't take it, my family will fall apart. I nodded calmly, not thinking anything about Marcus Donovan's confession 5 years later. And no one knows that I was in a hurry to find someone to fall in love with, just to cut off that teenage heartbeat that was flustered by Liam Sullivan. I was all too aware of the insurmountable gulf that separated me from him. I couldn't pass off his momentary bends, his whims, as love. That would surely kill me. Life is a cyclical dark tide, and every time I think I'm being reborn, I'm really just going down the tubes. For example, when I was 27 years old, I broke my own face, and now I am fighting for my life, but I am only looking for a rebirth like an escape. But the truth is, as long as it's Liam Sullivan on the other side, all my undying will come crashing down. That night, he bent down slightly, condescendingly opened the car door for me, and returned to his original position with a smile. Go and try the evils of the world. Go and see what the freedom you want looks like. The gesture was like opening a delicate and expensive birdcage and releasing the birds inside without much care, because he knew that as long as he waved his hand, the birds would return to the cage at dusk, even when it came to the point of tearing his face off. He was still as smooth as a much more mature lover. Regret is irrelevant. I've always been forgiving of you. Born full of self-confidence capital, he never believed that I can turn out of his 5-fingered mountain. Central Park luxury penthouse is located in the center of the city. The price of a square foot is nearly 400,000 yuan. In the past years, I often threw the floor-to-ceiling windows, looking at the city's spring, summer, fall, and winter. Occasionally, I would see my younger self. In that sweltering summer, the acceptance letter was nearly torn to shreds. At that time, they still called me by my original name, Chin Bitch Girl. Not because bitchy names are good to feed, but because female bitches don't get in the way. Before me, they had drowned 2 daughters. When I was 3 years old, my father became more and more twisted because he couldn't have a son. He began to drink heavily, was snarky and malicious, and took it out on a daily basis by hitting people. He would grab my mom's head and yank it back until blood oozed from her forehead. Then he would laugh like crazy. After laughing, he would kick her in the stomach and take turns stepping on both of her hands. Laozi has provided you with good food and drink, and you couldn't even give birth to a child with a handle. The face of the Chen family has been disgraced by you. My mom was beaten like a twisted snake, chrysalis on the ground. She couldn't resist, so she could only whimper and begged. He would hit me too, even if I was only 3 years old, and usually with one slap, I would roll like a gyroscope on the ground a few times and fall down. I sat frozen on the floor, looking up at him, forgetting to even cry. All the way up to the age of 5, my mom held out hope for a son. Just have a son and your father won't beat us. Unfortunately, before she could have a son, my father died, falling into the reservoir at the entrance to the village because he was drunk. Then she joined my stepfather and had a son in just 6 months. With my stepfather came my stepmother, and I became their son's little servant girl. I didn't dare to eat too much or speak too loudly for fear that they wouldn't want me. I could endure all the grinding and scolding, all the injustice and favoritism I was born with. Only, I can't bear to be kicked into the abyss before the light comes. When I was 17, my stepfather came into my room in the dark. I bit off his ear and ran out of the room. At a glance, I saw my mom sitting on the threshold with my brother in her arms, one hand over his mouth, staring at me in death. Don't blame Mom if he gets hooked up with those vixens outside. What are we going to do for the rest of our lives? My face was covered in blood, my eyes scarlet, and I looked at her with a fierce hatred. Later, I used all my wounds and half my life to steal the acceptance letter. A pair of canvas shoes costing $8 supported me to walk for 9 days on a muddy dirt road to buy the only ticket to the county seat. Since then, like a drop of water disappearing into the sea, I have never looked back. When I first arrived in this city, I was all alone, except for the notice wrapped in 3 layers of cloth in my bag. In order to survive, I have suffered everything, the hardest time. I and the old lady with a pension scrambled to turn over the garbage cans. And no one cares about the garbage cans. It is the last chance of survival for the bottom of the society, and every desperate person can turn over the garbage cans for a short period of time to get enough food, sleeping on the underpass shelter street, picking up rags and turning over garbage. $5 an hour hospitality staff, 3 cents a promotional flyers. The marketing of high-end clubs pulls me up to the 28th floor for a good meal and hot drinks. The marketing of high-end clubs pulled me. I have met countless bad people and only a few good people. Lola Thompson is one of them. She had a cigarette lit on her finger, red lips, big brown curls behind her back, and was wearing a leopard print halter dress. She laughed and scolded him. Get out of here. Go sell your booze. When did you start working as a madam? I knew what she was doing. That time, she was in the 28th floor of the largest high-end club in the 2nd Ring Road, where I was working as a dishwasher in the lower restaurant. And I had delivered a few things to her. I pinched the edge of the plate and looked at her nervously. She thought of something. I heard from Smokey that you got into an Ivy League university and you're trying to pay for tuition. Smokey was a new girl, a year younger than me, pure and attractive. She did well in the high-end club and often threw her old clothes to me, selling those clothes with only a few pieces of cloth. The rest could save me a considerable amount of money. I nodded, and she said no more. Lola Thompson had some seniority in the high-class club, and with just one word, I was transferred to the front desk of the KTV on the 3rd floor, and my salary went from $500 a month to $1,500 a month. The fate of people is so strange. She seemed to like me very much. Little girl is smart. What kind of dishes do you brush? She disliked my dusty clothes and took me to Century Park, which was the first time I entered such a big shopping mall, with its charming fragrance and 100,000 square meters of land, which I couldn't even finish by car, let alone on foot. The first cell phone I used in my life was also given to me by her, a vintage flip phone with a silver-white body and pinkish-purple buttons. She was disgusted with the outdated model, disgusted with the color is used by little girls, does not match her temperament. I squeezed her shoulder with both hands and patted her on the back. Sis, when I make a lot of money later, I'll buy you one that matches your temperament. Money, Money, at that time I realized, money, this thing can be divided into a Rift Valley class. Some people count $1 and break it into two, while others scatter millions of cash as shredded paper, causing the girls in the high-end club to bump their heads and bleed. Service workers like us were not allowed to pick it up, otherwise I could have grabbed all the money with my strength. Smokey was the only one who would talk to me, and she said the others didn't want to see me show up on their shifts when it was their turn. You're so pretty. Every time you come up to deliver a tray, the socialite air eyes are glued to you. If Lola Thompson hadn't said that's not what you do, they would have ordered you. Smokey recently got a client, a socialite heir of a very high status, who is very generous. The watch she's wearing is said to be worth $100,000, but I don't even dare to touch it. I won't be doing this anytime soon. He said he wants to marry me, so when I quit, I'll give you this watch. I stared at her watch for half a day and didn't reply. She couldn't give it away. I was young, she was naive. She took this socialite heir's joke as an oath. Later, not only did she not deliver the watch, her face was almost ruined. Lola Thompson pointed to her as she was being carried out in a state of distress and said, "Stupid woman, no decent girl can marry into a family like that. She treats me like a sister," and the concern in her eyes is almost overflowing. Aya, the name she gave me, tightened her brows when she heard my bitchy name. Why are girls useless? In my family now, in the most talented. What right do they have to give you that name? I can't recognize a few words. My Lola Thompson just doesn't sound good. You'll be called Aya. Just right for your good looks. I pursed my lips and didn't say anything. She poked my forehead with her index finger. What kind of women has Mr. Leung never seen? Would he fall for a little girl like you? When I heard this, I was lighter. He's different. Smoke and I are also different. I won't ask for more from him. It all started with the alumni sharing meeting 2 weeks ago. Ivy League universities have done this kind of lecture many times, but that time was the only one that was cautious and prudent. Wang Sheng, the founder of a listed company, Sun Xiangyang, a leading economist, and Su Haoqian, an internationally renowned top collector, all of whom can only be seen on newspapers and TV. We're eager to attend this lecture. The reason is that Liam Sullivan's uncle, Mr. Liang Wingyu, is the one who gave the talk. My first meeting with Liam Sullivan was not very pleasant. He was so tired of such academic exchanges that he frowned when he saw me bowing to serve water at the meeting. After all, a moment before, I also stuffed promotional flyers into his hands, a output of Sales Parenting Guide. That time he had just returned from abroad, 24 years old, but like playing through the human world. There is always a lonesome boredom between his eyebrows, until later I stood on that high point, only to realize that rich and powerful over the head, life will be very early burnout. The third time we met, he had a cigarette in his hand, looked at me and laughed softly. Your parenting guide has been promoted to KTV. Liam Sullivan seldom went to the high-end club. Even Lola Thompson had never seen him. I heard he was a friend of the owner of the high-end club the second time he came here. I got into a fight with someone. Jiao on the 28th floor accused me of stealing her bracelet, searched my bag, and insisted that the manager fire me. I knew that she just wanted me to leave because the customer beside her that day had looked at me a few times. She cursed too hard. I smashed my bag on her head and hit her so hard that she couldn't tell the difference. I wasn't pleasing either, cloaked like the devil. When I look up, I see Liam Sullivan leaning against the door, his face full of interest as he watches the action. Jiao cried with Lola Thompson's sister. I scolded her. You fart, your broken bracelet just you as a treasure, even if I steal, but not to steal that fake you. I want to be gentle and elegant, but I have no one to lean on. And if I'm not tough, everyone can step on me. Sister Lola Thompson stopped her. You go too far. This girl in our family, the heart is very high. 100,000 yuan of watches do not want. Will steal your broken bracelet. I touched my disheveled hair, glanced back at Liam Sullivan, who was called away, and he had not yet retracted his line of sight and found a hint of playfulness in his eyes, when the Aya, 18 years old, bright eyes, watery like a pavilion flowers, it was too easy to get Liam Sullivan's attention. My body is undisguised sharp and angular. That kind of diamond has not yet been carved. Freshness for Liam Sullivan is fatal. And all I wanted was to move up, to keep climbing, to get where I wanted to go. To get what I wanted, so to speak. The first gift I asked Liam Sullivan for was a name change. It's not that I hadn't done this on my own, I just couldn't do it. Liam Sullivan didn't care about that kind of thing. He just gave me an assistant. I thought to myself, I want to be the best, and I want my name to be at the top of the list. I gave my last name as and since then, I have been Ava Young. From that moment on, I made a clean break with the past. The day he took me out for the first time, I was the only one with cheap white shoes and a washed-out t-shirt in a fancy house. Liam Sullivan knew I couldn't afford expensive clothes and didn't think about having them delivered. He didn't care if I was cheap enough to embarrass him. He was more interested in how I would react, or rather, it was a test he gave me. One thing I've learned since I was conscious is that to live a good life, I need to learn to show weakness and flowery sweet talk. For example, I couldn't wait to finish my brother's leftover soup, look up, and smile sweetly and say, "Mom, you're so good to me. I'll honor you when I grow up." Only then, the next time there's something good left over from my brother, it'll be thrown at me. I didn't need to please Liam Sullivan's friends, but I needed to be able to talk to them. People had something to offer, and he about didn't know that the assistant had given me was good at her job. I knew they were willing to talk to me, but only for Liam Sullivan's sake. And I was no more than the man had brought in, but I didn't care. I was surprised that someone was handing me a pole, so I climbed up that pole a whole night down, sister, brother, haphazardly hitched. But there are always some people who don't even want to do FaceTime because they have the capital to do so. That was the woman before Amelia Hart, was the Leong family's most favorable strategic marriage alliance object in the early years. Only Liam Sullivan did not nod. She does not need to go out. Just need to frown. Someone will teach me a lesson for her. Excellent women have never lacked licking dogs. Just a moment after Liam Sullivan went out, the man with the blue-black hair missed and pushed me into the pool. Sorry, sis. It was dark and I didn't see anyone. That was the first time I heard such unorthodox Mandarin, and I later realized that he was from Hong Kong. I climbed out of the pool and kindly asked, "Can you swim?" Blue Hair looked at me and shook his head subconsciously. I smiled gently at him and kicked him out of the pool without hesitation. Sorry, my feet are slippery. Liam Sullivan's opinion of me has always been spot on. I was born with hard bones. Not to mention, I'm only going to get harder if I borrow his momentum. The moment I looked up, Liam Sullivan was coming from outside, cigarette in his mouth, cell phone in one hand, talking to someone. His eyes flicked between us, and he raised an eyebrow, stubbing out his cigarette with an idle gesture and walking over to me, half wrapping his arm around my waist. At this point, Blue Hair was being dragged to hang by the side of the pool, and before he could say anything, Liam Sullivan casually took a glass of wine from the waiter's hand and poured it backhandedly onto the tiles in front of him, without saying half a word, but with enough weight to do so. In private, he looked at me playfully, not a little bit of nerve. Didn't you find out who the other party is? The second youngest master of Longhua, even though he's a bastard. It's not something you can afford to mess with. I hugged the big towel and sneezed, looking at him innocently. I was brought here by you. I can't let you lose face. Besides, I'm barefoot, and not afraid to wear shoes. I knew what I looked like at the moment. My already veiled face would be even more watery when I climbed up from the pool, and my washed-out, ink-black eyes radiantly sparkled in the evening light as I looked at him without blinking. Liam Sullivan cupped the towel around my body with one hand. The cool wood aroma swept over me, and his domineering lips attacked. I tilted my head back like a sacrifice, taking on the raging storm as my heartbeat fled. At the end of the night, I dawdled out, wrapped in my towel, and stood in front of him. Liam Sullivan looked up. His fingers in his lap stopped moving, and he gazed at me without moving. I raised my hands to unbutton his shirt, half unable to do so. Anxious until I was sweating, he suddenly covered my hand, pulled my slippery towel upward, and idly said, "Where did the courage just now go? Your hands are shaking like chicken claws. I intentionally showed weakness and looked at him with brimming eyes. I want. He raised his hand and wiped my lips with his fingertips, his deep dark eyes slightly drooping. I'll teach you. I knew that it wasn't just about kissing, but that he would teach me ALOT.AS. I left the karaoke bar. Lola Thompson looked at me, wanting to say something, stopping to say something, and finally poking me in the forehead. I can't talk you out of it, but you've got a good heart. I couldn't find out anything about that Liam Sullivan, so you should know what he's like. I didn't realize that you were so ambitious. I thought you'd go to college and get a proper job and have a nice little life. Lola Thompson's favorite is the little girl who goes to college. She envies those girls who go to school and have a secure job. But if you ask her if she'd like to work a steady job for $3,000 a month, she'll snicker with her red lips. In your next life, she says. Like me, I knew that even if I graduated from an Ivy League university, I would only be able to make a living in the city. But I want more than that. I want to stay. I want to put down roots here. I want to cut all the back roads connecting that mountain village. I admit I found a shortcut, something to gain, something to lose. I don't care what he covets in me, whether it's beauty or even a passing interest, because shortcuts are different and not everyone can find a shortcut like Liam Sullivan. Before I met Liam Sullivan, my life was nothing but classes and non-stop part-time jobs, doll suits, promotional flyers, handing out balloons, tutoring at night, and rushing to the early morning KTV part-time jobs, so I couldn't wait to break up into 8 people. After I met Liam Sullivan, I realized that life could be so easy and fun. I didn't have to worry about anything except my classes and the occasional dinner with him. In exchange for not being equal, I would decorate to put him in a pleasant mood on every date, late winter nights in the minus teens. I wore knee-length skirts over a cashmere coat because he had frowned at my washout and bloated-down coat. I hated high heels, but they made my legs look longer and straighter. Liam Sullivan's aesthetics were in full effect, and in January, everyone who saw me complimented me on my good looks. It's nothing unusual. Once you're rich, you naturally have a rich face. However, weeds are not instantly turned into pampered flowers. Engraved in my bones are inferiority complex, sensitive, timid, even if I disguise myself well. Liam Sullivan can see through it at a glance. He held a ruler and measured me all the time. Look up. You don't have to hold anyone in your eyes. Understand, Aya? You're just a bunch of losers, and if you can't even handle them, then you don't have to stay by my side, he said. If you're going to think big. I think just 1 year will be enough. If I can stay by his side for just 1 year, I'll have at least 10 years less to go. Liam Sullivan has seen the world in a big and wide way, and even a casual word of guidance from him is enough to benefit me a lot. The first is real estate. Then the most central location, a square foot is only 8,000 or 9,000. All kinds of change in the money to buy. Later is to invest in the internet, artificial intelligence. And then later, I began to hoard gold like a demon. Liam Sullivan is also generous. House jewelry without blinking, equestrian lessons, golf, watching the economy, watching politics. He is not like raising playthings. More like in the sculpture of handicrafts, top auction, international wine tasting. In just 2 years, I have been able to not shy away from the stage, not even blinking to raise the card auction worth millions of collectibles. Even Lola Thompson, the manager, has taken her place. She smiled and said, I'm in your good graces. She should have been promoted a long time ago. She just got pushed down. Everyone knows that the woman called Aya beside Liam Sullivan is not to be messed with and cannot be messed with, even if they look down on me again. They no longer dare to point their fingers. Even if they chew my tongue, they have to be careful to carry me. Life in the world, who cannot be stained with too gossip, irrelevant, cannot hurt me a little bit. I thought that Liam Sullivan and I knew what we wanted. The extreme disenfranchisement of childhood creates a longing for respect and affection, which is simply referred to as a lack of love. This is the only miscalculation I made on the journey of climbing. I was enveloped by the light and bright moonlight, mistakenly thinking that the moonlight only shines on me, and since then I have been addicted to falling, unable to extricate myself. Falling in love with Liam Sullivan was too easy. I don't know if he is so loving to all his female companions. Liam Sullivan seems to be cold and arrogant. In fact, After getting along for a long time, we will find that he is extremely stable emotionally and even more patient with his pillow because of his youth. Occasionally, I would wake up crying from a nightmare, and he would always be woken up. Even if he was exhausted, he would get up and put me in his arms, coaxing me warmly and asking what was wrong. That time, I would often take advantage of the dream. Grabbing his pajamas and sobbing, "I dreamed that you are sick, how I cannot save you back. If you die, I'll martyr myself to you. Don't leave me, okay?" He woke up from his sleep. His eyes were clear and cold as he looked into his arms. Half a day he sighed and coaxed in a low voice, "Don't leave. I'll stay with you for the rest of my life." Writing names in the snow, catching the sunrise at dawn, the fireworks in the sky, the car full of roses, we did all the things between lovers on New Year's Eve. After coping with a large family, he would rush back, never letting me spend the new year alone in the dark. Birthday, 10 fingers do not touch the spring water of the person, will also be for you to do a bowl of longevity noodles. But usually is paste. So much so that through the years I will always remember the sunlight towards the beginning of the year to hear the sound of pots and pans collision, dense fall, as later countless times fell in my life. Piled up a thick stacked, an auction, he took me without moving to kill each other a dozen games. I recognized that person, that is because of the company's project. I moved a crooked mind. Business has come and gone, I didn't take it seriously. I advised Liam Sullivan there is no need to be concerned. He glanced at me carelessly. My people, not anyone can be bullied. In the end, it was the other party's elders who stepped in and apologized personally, while I was pondering when Liam Sullivan would end the relationship. News came out that Liang's family was urging him to get married. When I questioned him frankly, he didn't say anything, just gave me a faint look. I smiled at him calmly. The time had come for me to bow out. Being around him for so long had been far more than I expected. Marcus Donovan was the one who came along around that time, a senior who was a year older than me. I don't remember much about why Liam Sullivan's strategic marriage alliance didn't work out and why he continued to haunt me. I only remember that when I was 25, Lola Thompson died. The police said she had committed suicide with hanging marks on her neck and had taken a large amount of sleeping pills. It was also then that I realized that her real name was Zhang Qin. She was 16 years old when she was tricked by her fellow countrymen into signing a contract for an astronomical amount of money for breach of contract. They all say, an escort. Dead is dead, but to me, she's the first good person I've met in this city. If there are no accidents, we will get married. These words, which I publicized in front of the media last night, have been wildly amplified and reposted online. I was expecting another couple of years of pulling and pulling, but I didn't expect Liam Sullivan to let go so easily this time. Whatever his thoughts, it's a relief for me for the time being. I moved out of the Central Park luxury penthouse in just one night. Liam Sullivan's hairdresser, Julian Wright, stopped me and said, "Why don't you come over to my place?" For the first few years, Julian Wright and I didn't get along too well. Every time he saw me, he looked at me with his nostrils up and his eyebrows crossed, despising me from the bottom of his heart. I looked at him. "No, I don't have to hang around for more than 10 years and still don't even have a place to stay." He said, You always push him like this. He may have a hard time not being able to help himself." I looked at him sideways, smiled, and didn't say anything. Before I was 27 years old, Liam Sullivan might have had a hard time, shackled by the huge yoke of two families, making him unable to do what he wanted. But now he is not the same Liam Sullivan. 3 years he controlled almost all the power of speech. No one dares to be his master, interfering with his marriage. But even so, his marriage is still not downwardly compatible. The door is the bottom line of the Liang family. There's no artist who doesn't love his muse, but that's about it. Marrying me would have cost him a lot more than what he's paying now, and no matter how one weighs the pros and cons, marrying me is ultimately a very bad deal. So it would be better to just keep me around and save a lot of trouble. I know that as long as I know what I'm doing and act like a fool, I'll get 1,000 times more than what I'm getting now. Just think of me as being cheap and pretentious, both wanting, and running away if I can't get it. I pressed the car door and told him with a faint smile, "Anyway, I'm not much of a good person. When she was young, Ava Young was still a bit naive, with a lot of sincerity mixed in with her schemes. Now 30 years old, Ava Young can make an enemy of the world for herself. While sitting in the back seat and resting with her eyes closed, a message came in on her cell phone. The people from the inspection team have come down. Vincent Prescott is alerted. Take care of yourself. I deleted the message cleanly and casually clicked to a social media program that was flooded with pictures taken by paparazzi last night. The image showed a dusty Ethan Hunt in a casual black outfit, leaning extremely close to me. The car pulls up in front of the villa, and the man I just saw on my cell phone has been waiting here for who knows how long. Can I help you? I stood and looked at him. Ethan Hunt really has a good face, a pair of phoenix eyes under the thick eyebrows, high nose, red lips and white teeth. You showed him your cards. He looked at me with a burning gaze, the fire in his eyes like he wanted to burn someone. I avoided his eyes. It is really strange. After leaving Liam Sullivan, difficult men one after another, rather like Liam Sullivan is my peach blossomed, I said. My business will not involve you. You do not have to worry. The ability to protect you I still have. The teenager looked at me stubbornly. I'm not afraid. Can I stay by your side? Maybe you should remember that the deal between us ended last night. I reminded him, there's no need for an act now, Ethan Hunt. It's not an act, you can see that, can't you? His eyes were downcast and his long lashes were well behaved. You can see it, sis, but you're running away from it. Why? Because you still love him, don't you? Ethan Hunt, you crossed the line. I looked at him coldly. He tugged at my sleeve a little helplessly. You've checked me out, you know all about it, you know why I came to Beijing, but you don't know why I went into showbiz. I wanted to stand tall and let you see me. I didn't have the heart to pull this with the young boy. The further away from me the better at this juncture. Of course, I looked up Ethan Hunt and knew that he was one of the kids I sponsored back in the day. ID sponsored so many people, but it was all just a passing thing. After a few days, my cell phone stayed silent and Liam Sullivan really didn't contact me again. The person who contacted me was Ethan Hunt's agent, and his tone was very anxious, to the effect that Ethan Hunt was nearly shut down. And almost all of his resources and notices were assigned to another young student at the same time. Who is the handiwork? Do not even need to guess. I asked someone to help ask around, but who would have thought? People did not even make a move. It was so easy for Liam Sullivan to target Ethan Hunt. He simply made a comment about Ethan Hunt, and the people waiting around made the connection between the past few days and immediately went to work on it. I end this way. He was telling me to behave myself, go back, admit my mistake, apologize, and forget about it. Unfortunately, this tactic is no longer lethal to me 10 years later. I was taught by him, and about the most knowledgeable person in the world, on how to deal with him. For Ethan Hunt's sake, I made the trip myself. Ethan Hunt pursed his lips as he came out of the elevator. I don't need it. Don't you go begging him, he whispered. It's just a closure. It's not like it's the only path I have left to take. If it wasn't for the fact that there were a few senior executives of Tiansheng Entertainment standing beside me, I would have wanted to crack open his head and take a look. I just wanted to say a few words to ease the situation. When a group of people walked over from the opposite side, the head of the group was Liam Sullivan, who I hadn't seen in a few days, dressed in a white shirt and black pants, with one hand in his pocket. Only the original slightly hooked corners of the mouth, in the moment of seeing me, eyes slightly sunken, all convergence. I end my mind. I suddenly saw Julian Wright's gloating tone on the phone yesterday. I still saw Liam Sullivan for the first time. Yes, temper so big. I do not just casually say a sentence. In front of me to the table's corner of the table are smashed broken, blood clattering flow. What did you say in front of him? I didn't say anything. I am out of the toxic entanglement. Isn't that what he wants? He's a good judge of character. But he's a bitch. I swept my eyes over Liam Sullivan's right hand, which was firmly in his pants pocket. Julian Wright can only be believed in 1 out of 10 things he says, and the one he believes is usually exaggerated. I end 30 years. I have not seen a more emotionally stable person than Liam Sullivan. How could he be so calm because of an irrelevant sentence? I subconsciously sidestepped to make way for the elevator. That moment, a sweet and clear voice rang out, Sister Ava Young. I looked up. Liam Sullivan at some point stood beside a small girl, a white dress, long black hair half-tied. Emily Clark was also a girl I once sponsored and came over to thank me personally the year she came here for college. It was then that she sought out the address, and it was Liam Sullivan who opened the door. The little gray girl had made the trek from a distant mountain village, and I used to take more than a passing interest in her. That was 2 or 3 years ago. And I hadn't had much contact with her since, so I looked at her more than once. She looked at me a little shyly, and then dependently at Liam Sullivan. Liam Sullivan ignored her and went straight into the elevator, only to cock his head at her the moment the doors were about to close. Coming in yet? The tone was masterful, with an imperceptible hint of doting. Emily Clark's eyes widened in favor, and she hurried toward him. The elevator doors closed, and there was a murmur in her ear, intent. I told you men really do like young, although widowed, but better than young, fresh. I don't have any position to accuse her. Even if it's not her, there will be someone else. Over the years, Emily Clark is not the only one who wants to copy Ava Young's success. I S it hard. Maybe, after all, I was stupid enough to have loved him in desperation. Late at night in the villa's living room, 2 photos on the table. The woman on the left, with flaming red lips and flamboyant beauty, is Lola Thompson, who has been dead for 5 years. The man in the right photo is Vincent Prescott, wearing gold-rimmed glasses. He is one of Liam Sullivan's close friends, returned to China a few years later than Liam Sullivan, and is currently the general manager of a construction group. In the year he returned to China, the place he frequented most was the 28th floor of the high-end club, where he and Lola Thompson had known each other for a long time. Lola Thompson was a woman who ate grass to survive. I never believed she would commit suicide, let alone for love. However, all the evidence of that year has been cleaned up, and the only clue I have is the note she accidentally put in her will. Following that note, I fumbled with what she and Vincent Prescott had been her first guest. An affair that shouldn't have happened on the 28th floor. 2 dim-witted people. I didn't realize that Lola Thompson, the woman who could tell me not to be a stupid woman, was so naive and stupid when she was young. No one dared touch Lola Thompson after Vincent Prescott took her on, a pretty girl of 16 or 17, too easily lost in illusory affections. She thought she was different, thought she was a Cinderella favored by fate, able to make the prodigal son return for love, make the high and mighty throw away their armor, and finally achieve a fairy tale. Unfortunately, Vincent Prescott got married and left the country without leaving her a word. Lola Thompson, after a period of walking dead, began to learn how to survive at the age of 22, and from then on, he sealed his heart and locked up his love. When he returned to China, he took his wife and children with him, forgetting who Lola Thompson was. But when he meets her by accident, he uses his power to bring her back into the fold. Vincent Prescott's in-laws are no ordinary people, and 2 years later, the revelation of Lola Thompson's existence undoubtedly slaps them in the face. Wanting Lola Thompson to disappear was too easy, and Vincent Prescott didn't even feel sorry for her. But it's all right, the wrongdoer has a right to be wronged. Even if I can only scrape off a layer of his skin, I want him to remember it for the rest of his life. I brought Serenity International to life, and I probably knew then that one day we would go our separate ways. From the very beginning, I refused to be associated with any of the companies and resources that Liam Sullivan had in his hands. At that time, Liam Sullivan knew my intention, but also just smilingly looked at me, let me operate. I never hid my ambition, and he never wanted me to become a doddering flower. In this point, we coincide. Mr. N, there's someone at the front desk who says, it's your parents. The intercom picked up, and the receptionist girl reported nervously, I never thought that there would be a day in my life when I would see these 3, but Emily Clark went out of her way to do it. Sis, I didn't realize you're doing so well. Yao Zhu, who had sucked all the blood of his family, became a piece of slime that couldn't hold up the wall after a decade. Sis, you dead girl, you left without saying a word back then? I thought you had died out there. Looking at her timid but slightly greedy eyes, I only recalled that year when I held their son for so long that my arms went numb, and I accidentally dropped him on the ground. She cursed me viciously, you poisonous woman. I was 7 at the time, and I will always remember that scene. I withdrew my gaze and looked to the other side, where my stepfather, who had lost half of his ear, was also screaming daughter after daughter as if nothing had happened. I could feel my chest almost exploding, but I smiled. I didn't want to kill anyone. And on the day I changed my name, I buried the past completely. It's you guys, you had to bump into each other again. I smirked as I looked over at Emily Clark, who was now interning at Liam Sullivan's company and wearing clothes worth a lot of money. Her eyes roll over me. With excessive sincerity, innocent, smug, and confident, I asked her, "Do you think I have anything to lose by digging up my past? Or do you think Liam Sullivan doesn't know this, so you can't wait to see him give up on me completely because of all my shit?" Emily Clark, one can be ambitious, but not selfish, she bit her lip. Sister Ava Young, I didn't realize until I went back home that Uncle and Auntie Jiang were your parents, and they really missed you. You don't know, right? Since you left, Auntie Jiang cried. Every day, I think you should be happy to see them. Too clumsy a trick to even have the desire to poke holes in, I kindly threw in, so you remember that you and I come from the same poor place. I passed the 3. I looked at them indifferently. Get rid of them. Back then, I was already on my own account and I had no legal relationship with them. It's a shame that I came here on foot and didn't experience the hardness of Beijing's street beds. The next day, unsurprisingly, I saw those 3 faces in the headlines, furiously and generously accusing. Reporters swarmed around me, microphones disliking my mouth, trying to extract the big news. I looked at one of the girls mingling with the reporters. If I remember correctly, she was a classmate of Emily Clark's and had been introduced by her to work in the entertainment segment of the same company's business. I walked towards her, picked up the work tag on her chest and glanced at it. Writing her shaking. Microphone, my voice coming out clearly through it. Didn't the guy who told you to charge and tell you that I'm an orphan? Her face was suddenly pale and miserable, unbearable. It didn't take more than a few days for that trio to make a farce of themselves. And I received a message from Liam Sullivan, just a few words, still towering over me. "What's yours? Don't you want it?" The accompanying picture was a pile of bags and jewelry from my Central Park luxury penthouse checkroom. I pressed out my cell phone, opened it again in a while, typed out a few words and deleted them again and again. Finally, I replied to him, frowny face, "Don't want it." I didn't expect the first one to bow down. I did not expect, this time the first low head will be Liam Sullivan. Maybe he had a premonition that this time was different from the past, and that I was capable of going far enough to, I thought, absurdly, that he might be afraid that I might actually leave. The thought came like a tidal wave the moment I opened my eyes and saw him. Highly stressed from days of stress, I fell asleep on the couch. When I opened my eyes, Liam Sullivan's face zoomed in front of me, and I blinked and closed them again, rolling over and turning my back to him. I've been dreaming about him lately, and now I'm not even daydreaming about him. I didn't tense up until a moist kiss landed on my ear and warm breath spilled over. Aya, you win. I sat up sharply, staring at him fixedly. His tone was soft and slow. Come back with me. I can't sleep at night without you. What are you pretending? I pushed him away and went down to the ground barefoot. Liam Sullivan is propped up on the couch with both hands, grinning as if he's boneless. You don't have a very good eye. I spoke up. I hadn't made a move on Emily Clark, so if he really liked it, consider it my last gift to him. He took hold of my wrist and gave it a slight squeeze. What is she? It's just one more look. It'll take care of this. Stay with me for 2 more years. For the first time he opened his mouth to beg. I suddenly wanted to laugh a little, not going to look back at him. Even at this point in time, he still thinks that if he lowers his head and coaxes me, I will die, whether as a lover or as a collaborator. He never knew, nor would he consider, that I was a woman and needed security too. Vincent Prescott was subpoenaed, but I underestimated him, and he still came out in one piece a few days later. However, that would not have been my ultimate goal. For me to move. Vincent Prescott would have been like a mayfly shaking a big tree. The sky was the limit. It's just that once this incident happened, the promotion path that he has been laying out for 2 years is now all ruined. I sent out a text message. Vincent Prescott is out. The last step. I hope you won't let me down. I pulled out my cell phone card, broke it in half, and flushed it down the toilet. In the past few days, Liam Sullivan has been running here after work. And my words of resolution have instead become like a joke. I heard Julian Wright say, he seems to be busy with a cross-border acquisition recently. Things are complicated, burnout. But it's like he wants to watch over me, even if he's busy until the early hours of the morning. Hell drive over. Sometimes he is so tired that he lies down on the sofa and sleeps with his eyes closed, one leg still hanging on the floor. In the past, I would not have tolerated him on the sofa, even if I was tired. I would gently help him clean up, and then gently wake him up, let him go to the bedroom to sleep. These days he often woke up in the morning and saw that he was still sleeping on the couch. Sometimes he would sit still for a while. Sometimes he would rest his arm on his forehead and close his eyes, not knowing what he was thinking. On this day, Julian Wright asked me to go to the high-end club, saying he had something to do. When I got there, I was not surprised to see Vincent Prescott. He struck so fast that I couldn't run before he slapped me upside the head, and the taste of blood immediately filled my mouth. How dare you fuck me, bitch? Julian Wright bounced up and stepped in front of me. Fuck you, Vincent Prescott. What are you doing? Vincent Prescott pushed his tongue against his jaw, took off his glasses, set them aside, and pointed them at Julian Wright. Get out of the way. Julian Wright stops him like a wall. You hit her. Aren't you fucking afraid Liam Sullivan is going to get you killed? Vincent Prescott laughed. He's a fucking piece of shit. He's got a couple of cuckolds out there. He's hooking up with guys. If Liam Sullivan dares to turn his back on me for her, I despise him. Joel, I advise you to go away. If I don't kill her today, I will. Right, Vincent Prescott upside down. I put down my bag. I didn't even bother to wipe the blood around my mouth, smiling like a female ghost demanding for her life. If you can't kill me, I despise you. These words completely enraged Vincent Prescott. And like a maddened beast, he pushed Julian right away, clamped his tiger's jaws around my neck, and pinned me against the wall. Have I offended you? I spit out a few words with difficulty and laughed. Pecha. Don't remember that, Vincent? Prescott frowned. His mind searched for half a day, finally vaguely remembered a little. A few years ago to play a female. He showed contempt in his eyes. It's really the same kind of goods all the way, the same lowly. At that moment, the door was kicked open and a grin-faced Liam Sullivan came striding in, rolling up the obstructing cuffs and unbuttoning his shirt collar on the way. Vincent Prescott eyed him warily. Ogbai, I advise you. Liam Sullivan picked up his fist and slammed it heavily into his face, knocking Vincent Prescott to the ground, out of breath. His brow furrows and his fingertips press hard, wiping the blood from my lips. What's it to you? I scull coldly. Vincent Prescott stood up. Ogbai, I know you two broke it off. This has nothing to do with you. I can't blame you for this. But I advise you to stay out of it. Liam Sullivan blocked him. Even if you come at me, I won't say a word more, but not her. The car drove out of the tunnel. Liam Sullivan lowered the window. This matter ends here, even if you want to retaliate. This result is enough for him to eat. A pot. I looked out the window, my face still vaguely painful, too lazy to speak. A hand reached over and turned my face over. What are you doing getting involved in someone else's business? Do you have to do it? I didn't care if he was being eccentric. Don't mind me. He didn't get angry. Then what's wrong? He didn't like it, so what? You still want to fight him. You're just like him. Okay, you're calling me names. You're just talking about me. What about you? He didn't even raise his eyes, but he rehashed the same old story. Is it possible that you came at me because of your illusory love? Of course he knows everything. He knows my ambitions, intentions, and snobbery. But he still falls into it. It was so true that I couldn't argue with it and didn't say another word. I just wondered when Vincent Prescott's next move would be, and he wouldn't be willing to let me off the hook. I was waiting for his final blow. I don't know what Liam Sullivan was doing behind the scenes. Vincent Prescott seemed to have stopped. That day, Liam Sullivan woke up with a hangover and pulled open my car door, dropped me off at the office. Where's your driver? Somehow I was reluctant for him to come up. This premonition grew stronger as the car drove halfway down the road. At the same time, Vincent Prescott, who had received the news, said, "Fuck, Liam Sullivan got on that bus too. Didn't I tell you to detach him?" I thought Vincent Prescott would do something to me. After all, with a background like his, if he was not careful, it would involve the whole family. Liam Sullivan in the passenger seat had his eyes closed, occasionally pinching his eyebrows, and his head was lazily tilted. After a quick glance, I withdrew my gaze as the car passed the stoplight and entered the corner when a large van rushed head-on. The van looked like it was careening across the road out of control, but with a clear aim. Coming straight at my car, I swerved sharply on the steering wheel and met the impact with my side of the road. Almost at the same time, Liam Sullivan unbuckled his seatbelt and swooped in, grabbing me underneath him. Only one thought remained in my mind until I passed out of consciousness. I was amazed that at that moment, we were able to understand each other so well that we didn't hesitate to risk our lives for each other. Waking up again, 3 days later, I moved my fingers. When I opened my eyes, I saw Liam Sullivan in a hospital gown, resting with his back against the couch and his eyes closed. Awake, surprise flashed in his eyes, and he rushed to call the doctor. I've never seen such a scruffy Liam Sullivan before. His face is pale. His eyes are red and bloodshot, and his stubble is all over his face. He sat at the foot of the bed and held my hand, like had been lost and found and robbed of his life. It was only a few days later that I took out my cell phone to contact Chin Yuncher, the bastard son of the Chin family with such a good handle as murder for hire. It would be disappointing if he still couldn't bring down Vincent Prescott. If that truck hadn't suddenly stopped halfway through the collision, we wouldn't have suffered such a simple injury. Liam Sullivan recovered much faster than I did, and after half a month he was mobile, but he didn't go to work. He just moved a computer and lived in the hospital. Sometimes his subordinates come over and have meetings in the parlor. Within this half-month, Chin Yuncher's news to me is not bad. Vincent Prescott has been turned out a lot of cases. Even his in-laws are afraid to intervene to help. Among them, there is also Liam Sullivan's push. Vincent Prescott's downfall has been doomed. A few days before he was discharged from the hospital, Liam Sullivan repeatedly mentioned that he wanted me to move back to the Central Park luxury penthouse. I calmly said, "We've come this far, let's call it a day. I don't want to die one day. I am Ava Young and am not going to be another Lola Thompson." Maybe it was a steep recognition in life and death, or maybe there was no other way. Silence spread for a while. Liam Sullivan suddenly laughed. "It's not just marriage. I'll marry you. Won't I?" Willingly. His finger rubbed my ring finger as if measuring something. "Where do you want to go to have a wedding? When you are discharged from the hospital, we will prepare up." Oddly enough, hearing those words at this moment, my heart fluctuated nothing. If it was Ava Young 27 years ago, she might have been so moved that she couldn't help herself and fell head over heels in love. However, now that the blinders of love have faded, the opposite is a little clearer. Once marriage came between us, it wasn't just him who paid a huge price. I've met his mother more than once in the last 10 years, and at first she was a little disgusted with me, trying to get me to leave his side. Later, as time went on, she realized that no matter how she played it, her son would never marry someone into the family, so she didn't bother, and when she occasionally met them in public, she just walked by without looking at them. I was able to agree to him with a little reluctance, a little love, a lonely courage, and then what? The threshold that can never be crossed, the family history that is looked down upon, the identity that is not recognized for a lifetime. These distances cannot be erased by just the 2 words of love, even if we are fearless at the moment. Sooner or later, such a marriage will collapse into a plate of broken sand under the weight of the world, and eventually become completely different. Liam Sullivan sighed and wiped away my unconsciously shed tears. "Ava Young, you should know that I love you." For the first and only time in a whole decade, I had heard the word love from his lips. The confession that I had tried so hard not to get became a sharp blade that poked me straight in my chest where blood had already flowed. After all these years, I finally waited until the God who was so high above me bowed down to me and begged for my mercy, humble as he was, but I had long since lost the ability to love him, and little by little in disappointment, I withdrew all the love I had put in. I drew back my hand, a relieved smile on my face. "But Liam Sullivan, it's about time you realized that I don't love you anymore." He didn't say anything. He just looked at me deeply and clasped my hand with a sense of immortality. 3 years had passed, and I finally had the courage to take out the report that was on my phone and hand it to his eyes. I remember when I first found out I was pregnant then. More than surprise, I was scared. I couldn't figure out if he wanted it or not, so all I could do was pretend to try. His eyes instantly glazed over and he smirked. Don't learn those tricks just to get married. Without any hesitation. I made the most correct choice. I have no name and no points is enough. There is no need to involve innocent children. Liam Sullivan's finger tapped and tapped on the picture, gazing at it without moving. No one knew what he was thinking. I stacked all my years of disappointment in front of him, hoping he would let me live. Must you leave? He doesn't ask anymore, which is rare for Liam Sullivan to stoop so low, but there's still resentment, an attempt at redemption. We can have another baby. I shook my head and said firmly no. From then on, the mountains and the waters were long, and there were good people for each of us. On the day I was discharged from the hospital, Julian Wright came to pick me up in a sneaky way. He's not here, he took off his sunglasses. I was busy signing the papers and teasing him. We've split up. Who are you going to be with? Gee, don't give me a hard time. He smacked his lips again. Oh my goodness. Our parents are really breaking up, he then asked. What's your next move? It's just the end of a relationship. It's not a do-over. It's not a parting of the ways. It's just life as usual. I didn't look up. Work. Adults don't have much time for sadness. 1 minute you're grieving. The next you're smiling and making money. Over the years, Julian Wright has been a bystander, occasionally scolding Liam Sullivan, but rarely giving me a hard time. This time, uncharacteristically, he muttered, "You've got a heart of gold," he said. I laughed and didn't say anything. If I didn't have a hard heart, I would have died in the summer of my 17th year, or in the winter of my 27th. Picking up my suitcase, I patted him on the shoulder. Don't feel sorry for him. He's got a lot of choices and nothing. It'll be forgotten in a year or two, Julian Wright thought of. Liam Sullivan, whom he had met before he came to the hospital, the man was still the same, but a piece of his soul was missing, forgotten. Had always felt that Liam Sullivan might never forget. He just didn't realize yet that Ava Young was no longer his, that she would eventually marry someone else. Have children. 5 years is a short time to spend with a Vincent Prescott. Often, I ask myself, Lola Thompson, does she really need you to do this? The question is often unanswerable. Dead men don't talk. But I know that, given the chance, she wouldn't have been willing to do it. The day I left the hospital, I went to pay my respects. I'll always remember that year. She stood in front of me with a strong voice. What orphan? I'm her own sister. The woman in the photo on the tombstone had a bright and colorful smile. I burned the last photo of her, and from then on, there was nothing left of Lola Thompson in the world. Since then, I've traveled many roads. Besides work, occasionally, in Serenity International News, there is no shortage of journalists asking questions about the past. That time, I would always smile with a light brow and conclude that it was a favor to me. Since then, life has continued to be a mix of difficulties and joys that come and go.